James A. Garfield, the 20th President of the United States, had a life marked by promise, accomplishment, and tragedy. Though his presidency lasted only 199 days, his story is one of resilience, intellectual achievement, and an untimely death that cut short what might have been a transformative political career. Garfield's brief time in office and his tragic assassination left a significant mark on the nation's history. James Abram Garfield was born on November 19, 1831, in a log cabin in Orange Township, Ohio, to Abram and Eliza Garfield. His early life was marked by poverty, as his father died when he was only 2 years old, leaving his mother to raise him and his siblings. Garfield showed an early aptitude for learning, but financial constraints made education difficult. Nonetheless, his mother was determined to provide him with opportunities. He attended a local school in the village of Hiram, where he excelled academically. Garfield worked various jobs to help support himself and his family, including working as a farmhand and as a teacher. Garfield's academic journey was furthered when he enrolled at Williams College in Massachusetts in 1854. Despite financial difficulties, he graduated in 1856 with high honors. It was during his time at Williams that Garfield first demonstrated his potential for leadership, developing a strong interest in politics, history, and the intellectual debates of the day. After graduating, Garfield taught at Hiram College, where he also became involved in local politics. Garfield's political career began when he was elected to the Ohio State Senate in 1859. A member of the Republican Party, which was relatively new at the time, Garfield was a staunch abolitionist and supporter of the Union during the Civil War. When the war broke out in 1861, Garfield enlisted as a colonel in the Union Army. His military career proved successful, and he quickly rose through the ranks, earning a reputation for his leadership, bravery, and strategic insight. He served in several important campaigns, including the Battle of Middle Creek and the Battle of Shiloh. In 1863, Garfield was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives while still serving in the military, making him one of the few individuals to serve in Congress while on active military duty. His military experience shaped his political views, and he became known for his strong advocacy for the rights of African Americans and the abolition of slavery. Garfield also advocated for the Reconstruction policies aimed at rebuilding the South after the Civil War and ensuring the civil rights of newly freed African Americans. Garfield served 9 consecutive terms in the House of Representatives from 1863 until 1880. During this time, he became a powerful figure in Congress, known for his intellect, eloquence, and influence. He played a pivotal role in various legislative efforts, including the development of a new system of civil service reform. Garfield was a moderate Republican who opposed the corruption of the era, and he advocated for merit-based appointments to government positions rather than the practice of patronage. Despite his successes in the House, Garfield had his eye on the U.S. Senate, but his path to the Senate was blocked by the political infighting that was prevalent at the time. His Senate ambitions, however, would take an unexpected turn during the presidential election of 1880. In 1880, Garfield was unexpectedly thrust into the national spotlight when the Republican Party was deadlocked in its search for a presidential candidate. The two main factions of the party, the stalwarts, led by Senator Roscoe Conkling, and the half-breeds, led by James G. Blaine, could not agree on a candidate. Garfield, a compromise candidate with strong appeal to both factions, was nominated for president at the Republican National Convention in Chicago. Garfield's candidacy was a surprise to many, and his nomination was viewed as a political maneuver to heal the party's divisions. He ran against the Democratic candidate, Winfield Scott Hancock, a former Union general. Garfield's platform was centered on civil service reform, support for a strong economy, and the protection of civil rights for African Americans. Garfield won the election by a narrow margin, securing 214 electoral votes to Hancock's 155. He assumed office on March 4, 1881, but his presidency would be tragically short-lived. Garfield's presidency began with a commitment to reform. One of his most important goals was to curb the rampant corruption in the federal government, particularly within the patronage system. He advocated for civil service reform and appointed reform-minded individuals to key positions. Garfield also focused on strengthening the economy, advocating for a protective tariff and increased funding for infrastructure development, such as railroads. However, Garfield's presidency was cut short by an assassination. On July 2, 1881, just 4 months into his term, Garfield was shot twice by Charles J. Guiteau, a disgruntled office seeker who had been denied a government appointment. Garfield was seriously wounded, and after initial hopes for his recovery, his condition deteriorated. His doctors, many of whom were inexperienced in the emerging field of antiseptic practices, failed to treat his wounds effectively, leading to a fatal infection. Garfield succumbed to his injuries on September 19, 1881, after more than 2 months of suffering. He was 49 years old. James Garfield's death marked the first time a sitting U.S. president had been assassinated since Abraham Lincoln, and it shocked the nation. His assassination led directly to the passage of the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act of 1883, which established a merit-based system for federal government appointments and reduced the influence of patronage. Garfield is remembered as a man of deep intellect, integrity, and commitment to reform. Despite his brief presidency, he is often praised for his potential as a leader and the promise he held for the country. His assassination highlighted the need for civil service reform, and while his presidency was truncated, Garfield's legacy lives on as a champion of honesty, education, and public service. In the end, James A. Garfield's life, though tragically short, left a lasting impact on the United States. His vision of a fairer and more efficient government continues to resonate in the ongoing efforts for civil service reform.